When it comes to storm preparedness, a plan is power. And that's what this video is all about. Man, what a nice day. That is FEMA's emergency supply kit for storm preparedness, available at ready.gov. And it's got way more things on it than we can assemble here. So this is just sort of emblematic of a couple of things I think about and I want to share with you, because I've got one thing I really want you to get out of this video: to elect yourself the facilities manager of your own life, to be ready. I say that from experience because I didn't do it, and when Superstorm Sandy hit us, man, the power was out and it was awful and we weren't prepared. So I like to think about the little things and the big things. Stuff like this: charger cords for your devices. Obviously you have them, but you take them for granted every day. And stuff like pens, markers. Ooh, creepy toy. Toys for the kids. Again, this is a symbol, it's not a real pal. They're all things you need to think about, and they're the best to think about on a perfect day like today, where there's no massive weather event barreling up the East Coast while everybody you ever met in your life is barreling into a store to buy stuff. You want it days and weeks before. Where we live, staying home is almost always the best bet. All our stuff will be there, and we'll be safe, and everything will be okay. We'll ride it out. However, if you have to leave, you want to be ready to go, and you need the stuff to be ready to go with. A backpack is great. Toolbox is great. This one even has provision for hydration, so you can put a bladder in there from a drink sack. The other thing no one ever thinks about: important papers. Social security cards, copies. Those should all be in a safe deposit box in a bank. And what you really need to do is to go old school. The bank machines won't work. Credit cards aren't on the internet. Nobody's going to be in a store. So think it through, make a plan, empower yourself. Go basic, keep it simple. You can't borrow this. Now I'm going to take you inside and show you a little something about lighting. All right, here we go. The FEMA checklist for storm preparedness says flashlights and batteries. Yes, but I like to take it a step further, and this is something we learned in Superstorm Sandy, where for us, we were mildly inconvenienced. Our lights were off, and the heat was off for a week. Nothing compared to the devastation that happened to other people. However, it was still dark, our power was still out, and we didn't have a portable generator. We do now. I'm going to show you that next. But one of the things we got a lot of mileage out of, and I think is important, especially for prolonged outages, is what I call position lighting. And that can help with a couple things. So our portable generator, for example, is going to power 10 crucial circuits in our house. But the bathrooms aren't one of them. They run on plumbing and gravity. So we don't need to dedicate power there. We'll put it towards the refrigerator or the furnace or something else. Nevertheless, you need to see, and when there are no street lights on, when there are no lights in your house, when the candle's in the other room, night is dark. I mean, it's dark. So with position lighting, the reason I call it that is because it stays in a position while you move around. So from the lighting perspective, I consider the bathroom to be kind of a hands-free operation. So I can use a tool like this to light a bathroom or to light a path. And because they operate on rechargeable tool batteries, and I have a multi-charger port here, I'm not beholden to retail, to going to have to buy more batteries. I can charge the batteries with the generator, keep the light where my family needs it, and in the end, this increases safety, increases convenience, and keeps life as normal for you and everybody around you as possible. I set up my Q6500 to connect into the transfer switch device we've got set up, I want to make sure I've got a few things in mind. First of all, and probably the most important thing you can do, is to set this up outside. Outside doesn't mean in a garage or under a porch or under a carport, out of doors. And you want good clearance away from any dwelling. So we've got a 10-foot cable for our 30 amp twist lock, and we want to use every bit of that to get this unit, which should be like a car or a motorcycle, run outside. Also, we're going to want to point the exhaust both away from any structure and, if you can do it, in the same direction as the prevailing wind. So all the exhaust just goes away. If there are any potentially combustible things, like say a tree or a shrub or a bush, again, you want some good clearance and you're going to check the directions for that. Finally, and I think this is very important, it's one of those little things, because this is broad daylight here. I mean, there's no storm. It's kind of rainy out, but we planned for this. It's the middle of the day. When you're doing this, it could be 3 in the morning. There could be a blizzard, or the sun hasn't come up yet and it's howling rain outside, and you need to be able to see what you're doing. I love the flashlights that come from my kid's school store, but they're flashlights from a school store. You want to go Mac Daddy, get a tough, rugged, very, very bright, always going to turn on flashlight so you can see what you're doing. To me, storm preparation is not about controlling what we can't control, the weather, but about doing the little things and assembling them in order that makes sense, that you can execute in the moment. That way you don't have to think too much about it because you're already ready. That's the nature of storm preparedness for me. What I love about this system is it's fast to set up, it's easy to use, and you don't need to be an expert. And I'm not an expert in this, but I can't resist how awesome it is under the hood. This is the domain of a licensed, insured electrician who's going to pull a permit and get this project inspected. And one thing, just because I need to dweeb out on this, is that not all electricians were created equal. This box is neatly wired, organized, tidy. It's the mark of a good electrician, and it's the mark of someone that you want to work with. So if you've got a neat electrician and you're talking with them, you are definitely moving in the right direction. I've lived through enough hurricanes and seen trees twisted, ripped, totally pulled down by all kinds of forces. Saturated ground, just the root system couldn't hang on in the mud. The wind twisted them apart, and they fell, or they broke, or they dropped a massive branch. In storms like that, the power was out anyway, because it was happening all over the place. But it doesn't take cataclysm like we're almost getting used to seeing on television now. It can take just simply an unhealthy tree. So you're not talking necessarily about storm preparedness, it's just preparedness. And any arborist will tell you that they can drive through a neighborhood and find a problem tree in almost every other house. And it doesn't take an arborist to know that this tree is on its last legs. But it does take an arborist to know a diseased tree, or a tree that's had its root system compromised, or trees that are overhanging the house too much. They can tell where a tree might fall. So what I recommend to you as part of your storm preparedness kit is to prepare for general Mother Nature. Have an arborist come out, inspect your property. Yes, it's not a free estimate. It's going to cost you a little money, but if this tree falls, pulls the utility line off the house, you're into it for insurance, electrician, you're down for power, you might be out of work, especially if you work at home. There's a lot that goes into a small investment for an arborist that could pay off big down the road. So I'm trying to remain reasonably cheerful here, talking about storm preparedness, but the subtext is, if you need to enact your plan, your process, and get all your pieces together, something happened. So I think that's actually getting into me today. We do hilarious projects, we do fun videos, those are all on our YouTube channel, but we want to say thank you for sharing this time with us. Why? We think it's important. To be a helper in the storm is better than needing help. How do you start? Maybe make a budget. None of this is free. It's all pretty easy, but we have to go through the pieces, parts, and process to get ourselves where we need to be ready, to be a helper in the storm, because it is coming. One way or the other, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but it's coming down the pike. It's cruising through the Pacific, or it's flying up the Atlantic, or whatever it is. It'll be here. It's what you do about it that counts. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really appreciate it, and we hope you have a beautiful day. Oh, more hilarious projects. Find them on the YouTube channel.